Welcome back to Play and Talk, and holy crap, it's been a while. I'm Norvernok, and this is Shadowhawk.
Hello.
Oh, okay. For a second, I accidentally muted myself. We're good. We're good. So, what is the last time we did Play and Talk? I gotta check the little video manager because holy crap, it's been like weeks.
It certainly has been.
Yeah, let's start off with the big news. Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. Like I said, I'm not a fan of his content. It's still a bit notable to talk about alongside Wandavision and soon enough the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or the
Yeah,
Falcon.
is that tonight or is that like more later? Is that tomorrow morning?
Well, yeah, or very early in the morning. So I have no interest in watching Zack Snyder, but I'm kind of interested in seeing to hearing your thoughts on it. I've heard that some.
I haven't seen the Snyder cut yet, but am interested in seeing that because a lot of people who I follow, admittedly, that's kind of few though, but at least the general reactions I'm seeing from people who I like say that so far they do consider it a bigger a improvement over it, and I would admittedly like to go and see it though to at least see how exactly it was meant to be envisioned. I'm probably gonna wait and do that on probably Wednesday because yeah, 4 hours is a really long time for a movie. So I need to make sure that
Yeah,
I
it's
can
like why
sit down properly, get a drink, make sure that I'm good for it.
why
Not an
four
alcoholic one.
hours?
By drink, I mean like I mean like a soda one. Well, because 4 hours, that's how much footage actually exists from there. Because see, you will film a lot of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but 4 hours is not the sort of thing that would ever go to audiences. Dan also made a good video on this, like way back when saying the Snyder Cut both did and did not exist, and saying that yeah, that 4.5 hour reel was something that was never going to go to audiences. Mainly just because theaters are very hostile to when you start going for movies that start to go over the 2.5 hour mark. Even when movies were going upwards, they were still trying to keep themselves as basically as little of time as possible, so that way theaters could be able to switch between seatings per night. Because otherwise, you run the risk if they were longer movies. That of stuff though, where you would basically run the risk of where you would end up having it to where you would have to keep your theater open until 3 a.m., having your staff stay open that long to make sure that this movie could be up, which would probably not be worth it unless this was a movie you thought would really do it well.
Yeah, and the only other movie that's about as
Like, I
long.
can promise you, like, for instance, I can promise you for any of the sequel trilogy movies, I'm pretty sure there's probably a whole tons of footage
Yeah.
that they have never released to the public.
Like,
I mean, heck,
I
none
think
of us
I
even
think
knew.
the third lesson in the Last Jedi when Rey was going to a realist she believes was on attack, but turns out it's just a festival.
But yeah, like, for instance, like, the Leia archive footage they used from The Force Awakens, like, that was stuff that was
That's
never even
that
released.
which is like a blessing in disguise.
It turned out to be, yeah. Because, like, yeah, they film a lot of stuff. I remember in an interview that John Boyega even mentioned that there was a scene that they filmed where Rey and Finn were actually talking about his force sensitivity, and Rey mentions that she's always known of it, but they just never put it to the film, though.
I
And
wonder
it
why.
seems to have, at least to
I
my knowledge, never was actually put onto the editions of it. So again, there's a lot of footage that gets filmed, but even DVDs don't exactly put all of their deleted scenes on there.
Why is that?
They mainly put the deleted scenes that they think would probably get people sort of thinking that it may be interesting. Like in the Last Jedi's case, like Phasma's death being much different, where Finn actually ends up pointing out to First Order stormtroopers that it turns out that she actually was the reason Starkiller Base got destroyed. So therefore, she had to kill them, and obviously he killed her. So there was that, or there was the village raid scene, which was Luke's way of trying to teach Rey about going into situations without really knowing what was going on. So that's what I mean. They mainly want to give the deleted scenes that they're like, oh, we think that audiences who watch this will really have a liking for it, whereas they're not going to really be putting scenes that they filmed, but probably thought was just not really worth putting in there. Because, yeah, I could probably promise you that for any major film, there is probably 4 hours of footage in there.
Yeah,
Whether it's
Yeah.
Although keep in mind that 4 hours, not all of it is finished. Is the thing. Most of it is most
It was
likely
impressive
a work print.
it is impressive that they finished these 4 hours of footage for that version of no, of
Yeah, they probably
of Justice
apparently
League.
VFX experts estimated that probably another $30 to $40 million was spent to be able to finish the footage that was
Oh, you
actually
forgot to press Y.
just done.
Oh, you forgot to
Oh,
press Y. So
so
anyway,
like yeah, that's what basically happens with these, and I am interested to see though because maybe I'll end up liking it more. Because keep in mind, I was overall
yeah,
fine with
as
the
much
normal version.
as Joss Whedon turned out to be a bit of a jackass, I do like how he portrayed that version of Batman. Someone who's like an old superhero who realizes that he's out of his depth, and there are other superheroes that are stronger than him, more powerful than him. You okay?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but more so that he just saw that he couldn't do it alone,
Yeah,
so
that
he
too.
needed other people who could help him for it.
Yeah, I really do like that version of Batman compared to like the uber god Batman or overtly prepared paranoid Batman.
Didn't asleep, and neither do we, right, Newt?
So, regardless, that's what I'm going to see it for. But for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I'm actually going to be quite interested to see what the initial reactions will be when it comes to audiences, because considering how out there and weird that WandaVision was,
Yeah.
and with Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be more of a straightforward kind of, show, it kind of makes me wonder if the audience's reactions are going to be that because it wasn't as weird or out there as WandaVision,
Yeah,
if that was going to
Black
somehow
Widow was
make
supposed to be
experience.
the entry, the first, it was supposed to be the introduction to Phase 4, but COVID.
But then COVID hit, so therefore WandaVision kind of ended up being unintentionally that segue.
Yeah.
Specialities.
Yeah.
Probably best you jump out.
Oh yeah, and my overall thoughts on WandaVision. Hell of a mini series. I can't wait to see what happens next with Wanda in the second Doctor Strange movie.
I really liked it as well. I thought it was very well done, and certainly not what I thought it would be, though.
Yeah.
And it certainly turned my expectations in many ways, though. But unfortunately, WandaVision did show me of some of the really poor ways that I see people in general when they watch or read these stories, where it seems rather than wanting to be involved in the story that they're watching, they're more interested in what sort of story they think they're going to see down the line.
Yeah,
so therefore, when WandaVision didn't conclude with a reverse House of M, though, where basically they were expecting that Wanda was going to create the X-Men, and then we would have had that be segued for that, even though the actual X-Men movie isn't even being filmed yet, even though, yes, they confirmed that it's actually being made.
Yeah, that's... I had to be honest, I was kind of expecting Ultron in the final episode of WandaVision for some reason.
And it's understandable that you felt that way. But again, it's not bad to be like, oh, I thought that this is going to happen, but how many of them actually end up thinking this is flaws, or it doesn't matter to them because they're like, oh, well, this doesn't have consequences that will affect later movies, which wouldn't be true, because I'm sure what happened in WandaVision, especially with that ending, is definitely going to be something that we'll see probably more of in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But even still, even if that wasn't the case, we shouldn't really care about whether or not that is something that segued into that. Although I also am seeing some bit of a discussion around the book that she has, because last we saw that book was with Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, Ghost Rider or someone else, but yes.
Looked it up. It was actually Ghost Rider who last had the book. He retreated.
How Agatha managed to retrieve that from Ghost Rider if the show was acknowledged?
Because that's kind of the funny thing, is that
it looks different.
Even though WandaVision is looking like it's actually going to be connected to the MCU, as in like it will actually have things that will be an effect on later films, whereas Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was intended to be that, but because of a lot of bad internal politics at Marvel, it didn't pan out that way.
I wasn't expecting the Darkhold to have a presence, even though that looks different.
So because apparently, as I learned more recently, though, on the subject matter, was that apparently because the reason why the TV side ended up not being as was originally envisioned was because of office politics between Kevin Feige and Marvel's previous CEO, Ike Perlmutter. So
yeah.
that's why I always see when I see people who are talking about Marvel going to the Republican Party and Trump specifically, it's clear that they're mainly, if they don't really realize it, are referring to Ike Perlmutter, as he was very much known for being a donor to the Trump campaign.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame.
And so that's why, like, when things were going in, and because of how apparently from what was reported, was that also he was an awful person to work with, and that's why a lot of actors and creators were actually even talking of bailing after Age of Ultron. So Disney, clearly not wanting to lose a lot of its creative forces that were there, they had Kevin Feige be in charge of the films, and Ike Perlmutter was mainly leveraging his power to handle Marvel Television as well as Marvel Comics. So therefore, that also was a thing as to why the Inhumans were being built up majorly throughout the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, was because Ike Perlmutter was hoping that this was going to have them be the replacement of the mutants, which is why he also in the comics tried to have them killed off. The mutants, I mean.
Yeah.
I'm told it was quite the clusterfuck.
Yeah, which reflects poorly with that show, by the way.
And the Inhumans show also didn't help either. But I do hope we actually get to see Lockjaw, because I do appreciate they actually committed to the idea that's like, hey guys, we gotta get somewhere, so everyone hug the giant doggy. I love it.
Yeah, fun. Yeah, speaking of Marvel, yeah. So Adventures. So the Adventures game has announced the character Black Panther. The suit looks interesting to say the least. For that game version. For that game version of Black Panther.
Certainly looks like it. So yeah, that's what I basically mean with it, though, because the TV side also had another problem aside from Mike Perlmutter, which was when Joss Whedon was ending up leaving the MCU as a whole because of things that we would not learn until many years later.
Yeah, I still like his stuff. It's such.
I love his stuff too, but
it's a shame.
It's like a shame that he is a really awful person.
It's just basically a bit of a jackass.
Like, it really sucks, I know. So that's what
I was skeptical at first. Like, there's only a couple of people that
And as for the whole Ghost Rider aspect, again, that comes to me as a thing that I doubt that Marvel's going to tackle, because I really don't think they want to start opening up the can of worms that would be the Abrahamic religions in there, because, hoo boy, is that going to cause a lot of controversy if they go that route.
I did hear that Kevin Feige is interested in a Ghost Rider movie down the line.
I'm sure he is. I would love to see a new one as well. I remember that Nick Cage actually even mentioned that one day he actually hopes that the actor for Ghost Rider would be a woman down the line, and I'm like, hey, I would actually be really down for that. It would certainly be different.
Yep. Alright, let's... Yeah, so... Back to Wandavision.
That's why I say with these things where I am actually curious, because now it looks like since Kevin Feige, because Ike Perlmutter was actually completely removed from Marvel, so Kevin Feige is actually in charge of everything Marvel related, comics, television, and the films.
I've heard about that, and when I first heard about it, I was like, seriously? He's going to be in charge of everything Marvel? In addition...
Yeah, he's in charge of everything Marvel. Any deal that gets done, it does not get done without his approval.
That... Well, this is not about you have a lot on his plate.
Oh, he will. So, like, yeah, that's why we're going with him, and also, no doubt, it happens that way, because with this television stuff being done, this is probably a necessary move, so that way he can be able to actually just be able to, do all this stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why it always comes with stuff like that, where because of expectations of what it was. Because of course, when it comes to finales, that's always the thing that is always going to be the least liked thing in a lot of fans.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, fans always have their own idea of
like the Game of Thrones season 8. Oh, speaking of the finale of for WandaVision. I was expecting something interesting. I was expecting something out of the fake trail or the false Quicksilver. Only to be some like Ralph Boner, Boner.
Right.
Your thoughts on that reveal? It's like And I do certainly find how they wrapped up the White Vision stuff between so the ship of Thesis. Yeah, the ship of Thesis. If you replace all the parts,
The ship of Theseus.
Theseus, yeah.
I actually always pondered that idea even before I even knew what the name was. I actually first thought of it when I was playing Fallout 3 and the idea of the Washington Monument and also with the destruction of the White House. And I always thought to myself, like, would rebuilding it mean that it was actually, like, the former White House or just a replication? I just didn't have a name to put to it.
Yeah, and Enfish brought up an interesting counterpoint. What if you stored instead of replacing the parts? Would it still be the same?
I mean, yeah, like, what if you just basically kept the parts the same? You didn't replace them, you just simply made sure to put them back into good shape and then did so.
Yeah.
So therefore, like, because the Vision we saw there had the actual body of the Vision, but he just didn't have the memories. The quote-unquote fake one gave him the memories, so now he's left to do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, an interesting way to resolve that plot point. Okay, bye!
I really liked that, actually.
Yeah, me too. It's like, okay, bye! Phew! Bit mean for Wanda to
and it was certainly very gut-wrenching seeing her say goodnight to the kids, though, and actually knowingly watching this entire world that she built just go crumbling down on it. Like, it was definitely some really hard thing to watch.
Oh, press Y, by the way. You forgot to... It's hard to keep track, multitasking and all.
Yeah.
Here's something really stupid. So apparently people are, like, holding against her for, for mind controlling all these people unintentionally out of grief, and it's like, and if I first of all,
this is a problem I have been seeing. It seems to be more the last few years now, where it seems people always want to see if this character and these events were real, how would I judge it? Which is really the wrong kind of lens to look these things through.
Yeah.
Sorry,
like they didn't give the same judgment to to Natasha, Black Widow, aka Black Widow, or Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. What gives?
Because I find for these people, like, they have a really big thing for atonement, or rather for, like, basically for accountability. But it's always clear to me that when they talk about these topics, they don't really know what that looks like. Like, I see this in the Star Wars fandom a lot when I see people who are on the train that's like, oh, Vader wasn't redeemed because he did one good deed. But narratively, that is redemption. Again, redemption is a state of mind when you remove yourself from your sins. Because again, it was always when you end up rejecting them, that yes, you have purged yourself from sin. That's what redemption always was. But the accountability thing I always find with these people, they don't really know what that looks like. And even then, when listening to them, you couldn't even really tell where exactly is the...
It's not about redemption, but more about punishment.
Oh yeah, like, they've been there.
It's more about punishment.
The closest I could imagine them to be would be something like what happened in Injustice 2, where in that game, both the Flash and Green Lantern were very regretful of their partaking in Superman's regime. And so even for Green Lantern was even frequently tempted by the Red Lantern to actually become a Red Lantern. And so with it, he ultimately concludes that even if he despises himself for what he did, he would just try to do what he could to make things right. But I don't really think these people would actually consider that an atonement story. And I know these people also hold up Zuko as being more of an idea of it, but I'm like, one, he didn't really suffer consequences for his actions. All he did was just have to do an extra task for each person.
Yeah.
And not exactly I would call that consequences in any way. And it comes across as kind of funny because even though Zuko is like, why am I so mad at being good? I'm like, dude, you suck at being bad too. You were actually worse as a villain than a good guy.
Hey, no, I gotta punch.
Like, keep in mind, when Zuko was a quote-unquote bad guy, he saved Aang when his friends were out of commission. The whole series would have ended there if he did not rescue them.
Yep. Oh, I got. It's like.
So that's what I mean with this. In the case of Wanda, because I also noticed these people want it to be where it's like, I don't know, they like go to prison, I guess, but as far as like the finale of a story, that's the most boring kind of outcome you could possibly leave
Yeah,
with.
so here's a quote from Grant Morrison. Kids understand that real crabs don't seem like the ones in the Little Mermaid, but you give an adult fiction, and the adult starts asking really fucking dumb questions like, how does Superman fly? What do these eye beams? How do those eye beams work? Who pumps the Batman Bear's tires? It's a fucking made up story, you idiot. Nobody pumps the tires.
I'm sure Batman pumps his tires. Yeah, as I said, I never care for that stuff. Like, well, actually, Bruce Wayne couldn't be able to be going all night as Batman and all day. Yeah, it's a fucking story. You could just make up whatever it is you want to do and it'll fit.
Yeah.
Just go and say that Bruce Wayne takes like 5-hour naps each day and then that's how he's good.
Yeah,
I mean, none of the shit of him is realistic anyway. I mean, the guy can bench press 1,000 pounds, can leg press 2,000, and can also be able to run speeds equivalent to Olympic gymnasts.
Yeah.
That's impossible for a person to hold all at the same time.
Just roll with it.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and someone made a quote tweet saying this gets more relevant every day. People out here trying to cancel fictional characters for abusing their check the notes, magical powers, and Adam, how many people villains they have killed in order to work out who should be tried for war crimes at the
Again, I see this a lot in the Star Wars fandom with the discussions of Vader and Kylo Ren, which always makes me go, congratulations, you're missing the entire point of this. Like, oh, it's not I'm missing the point, it's just because I want accountability. And again,
accountability
it's
for
very
a fictional
obvious.
character. Accountability for.
I know, and it's like, again, because you don't know what that looks like. So, okay, where's the accountability line? And it's even worse when they hold them responsible for actions they couldn't stop. Like, I frequent when I see, and honestly, out of all the sequel trilogy takes, it's like in my top 10 most cringe takes, which is, well, Kylo Ren took part in the killing of Starkiller Base. That was Snoke. Kylo Ren couldn't do anything to stop it. Even if he decided, stand down, they would be like, no.
Yeah, Kylo Ren also hesitated to kill Leia, his mother. That's...
So, again, it's like he couldn't be held responsible for that. Oh, he slaughtered a village. I mean, again, why are you acting like he's a real person who did this stuff?
Yeah.
And also, like, yeah, would this be something you would do in real life? No. But in real life, Kylo Ren would probably not be the sort of person seeking redemption either.
But this is fiction, and fiction can bend the ways.
Of course it can. Because again, I find these people talking about accountability, but anytime I hear them talk about it, I couldn't even tell you when they think that point is. How many stories do we have to go through before we end up seeing it? How major does that story have to be? How long does the story have to go? Because admittedly, seeing the same story play out, oh, and keep in mind the Atonement story, at least from what it seems you're describing, has to reach a point where they actually have atoned for it. But again, if you're going to operate on the they can't atone for it,
on the quantity as if it's a video game.
I mean, maybe in that sort of Fallout 3 karma system where it's like, okay, you blew up Megaton, so that knocks you down like 2 karma levels, and so therefore for you to get it back, you just have to keep doing like however many tasks until you get it back up again. But again, these people don't really describe what that looks like. Again, that's my problem with the Star Wars fandom as a whole, and it's honestly also a great way of describing how they are in the films, where I'm like, I couldn't even really tell you what films they liked, though, or even anything of what they liked, much less loved on it. That's what I mean on these topics, though, because it's like, people, these are fictional characters, treat them like that. They're also meant to tell stories and teach morals about it. That's what they're for. Like, yeah, what Wanda Maximoff did
it's
to
bad.
rescue,
and she's been called out.
She's bad.
She's been called out by a lot of people, and in the end,
she even feels guilty for it. Like, she actually, at the end of it, actually feels guilty for what she did, and she's going on a quest to try to go and see how to be able to better use this power that she has.
Yeah, her newfound powers.
So again, it's like, yeah, that's what she's doing. At the end of the day, the story of Wandavision is about a woman who lost everything in her life, and in order to be able to recapture a sense of happiness, had herself go through an event where she would ultimately end up going back into a nostalgia trip, but unfortunately would make her very violent though as a result of it.
Yeah.
And it's about a woman who's about trying to overcome the grief that she has. Yeah, it's a great story to see, though, and seeing her come to terms with the grief and accept that, yes, the vision you knew is dead, and that it's time to build a new life for yourself. that's good. That's the sort of story you want to see.
Yeah. I'm also eager to see how Sam Raimi would portray Wanda in the movie.
Very curious on that, because horror is what he became most famous for, and obviously he's a big superhero fan, so I have full confidence he'll give us something really good down the line.
What I really love on that episode is when she pulled the same trick that that she did on Tony Stark in the second Avengers movie. That I was like, yeah, didn't work out. Didn't really work out, but points for effort. Major points.
So, like, I'm sure we'll get something good out of it, though.
Speaking of Star Wars, Tulak the Tulak, I'm not sure how to pronounce the librarian. I don't know. He made Rey in D&D 5th edition, and he made her a well, obviously human. Here's what's surprising: he made her an artificer, multi-classing into a wizard. I was like, that's surprising.
That makes sense, though. She is, after all, she's a Jedi. They're wizards more so than warriors.
Yeah, and here's the I was actually half expecting to be a rogue, maybe a arcane trickster because of her yeah, because of her many skill, like her being skilled in a lot of fields, that sort of thing. But when I look through the abilities of the artificer and the like, especially with the subclass, the Battlesmith, and the War Mage for the wizard, I was like, huh, that makes a lot of sense. And the way he built her made her surprisingly tanky, especially when he had her when he picked the tough fear. It's like,
someone traveled through here recently.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it certainly does, though, when I think about it.
Yeah, so although he made a bit of a snarky comment towards but that's just him in general. I'm just like, about the accountability thing, like with Kylo Ren sacrificing himself. Like,
okay, supply bin.
That's a bit of a tangent right here. Sorry.
That's good. As I said, because honestly, as far as Star Wars lately, it just honestly only has me feeling sad than anything. I even said that with my girlfriend recently on it.
What did she say?
Like, it just occurred to me that, like, by next month, I'll have gone an entire year never having rewatched a Star Wars film, which was unprecedented in my whole life, though. I would always be rewatching at least something that was from it. But ultimately, like, whenever I even try to even think of anything that involves it, all I just feel is sad about it. Because, like, the fandom was what I grew up with, though, and anyone who knows
Did you say that
knows
the true measurement of a fandom is with the conventions?
Well, I have seen that, but honestly, time has gone on where I'm not really sure, though, where even however true that is, it's not something I see enough to where, especially with that, to really have that. Because again, like, even with going in there, because I still vividly remember between when I was in middle school and going on the internet, all the way up to when The Force Awakens came out, when Star Wars stuff was pretty much non-existent. Star Wars as a franchise was more or less dead. We were not getting, not only were we not getting new movies, there were no plans for no movies. Even though Lawrence Kasdan was trying to make a solo film for quite some time, he never got to do it.
Yep.
And so, therefore, the games also were going to a halt. Between 2008 all the way to 2015, we would not actually get a Star Wars game.
At the time, it was largely like stuff like the Force Unleashed games and Star Wars: The Old Republic MMO by BioWare. But the Old Republic is still
Star
going.
Wars Connect. And as we saw from the Star Wars Connect, suffered the same fate as the actual Connect.
Oof.
And so, what about The Force Unleashed? The Force Unleashed actually did sell pretty good. It actually sold, I think, it was like 9 million copies throughout its entire run. Really impressive.
Yep.
Although,
most impressive.
But, unfortunately, its sequel sold under 3 million copies.
I'm gonna whisper myself and... Hot. I wonder what happens if I get near it, Nope. Okay, so same result, really.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
so that's what I mean with it, is that ultimately with it is something I really feel sad with. And honestly, it's like
you don't have to feel sad about you don't have to feel sad about it. if the fandom bothers you so much. I just ignore it, enjoy what I can.
I try to do that, but honestly, it's just not feeling the same even with it, though. Because again, I grew up with that the whole time, and even still, because whenever I see Star Wars, when people are bringing it up, or whether it's even like randos or whatever, it's all about really just like shitting on other people. Sure, I don't mind cringy, saying about some cringy or making fun of some stupid fan opinions here and there, but ultimately, it's all I ever see in one
I
direction
just
or
ignore it.
another.
Yeah.
Because at this point, though, like, there's no one I can really see that really even seems to actually even enjoy this series, though. And that's why when looking on it, I only question, do you really even like the series, or are you just only a fan of just what made it popular, which, as far as an opinion goes, that's not really illegitimate as one. I mean, honestly, I think people would just be more honest if that's exactly what it was, though. Like, it would be disingenuous for me to say I liked anything past the first Men in Black. Lots of people feel that only the first Rambo was the only good one, or that only the first Return was the only good, etc. It's like, fine then, but if you're gonna hold it with the OT and everything else you like, with maybe a tiny sprinkling of a few other stuff, then honestly, I consider it more that you're not really a fan of the series, you're just more of a fan of really specific stuff.
It's like, as much as Zack Snyder turning out to be
Like,
a bit
if
of
I
a
was an MCU
guy.
fan, the same way a lot of people that I've seen on Twitter or elsewhere were Star Wars fans, if, like, we're going to run under the assumption that I already like Iron Man 1, The Avengers, maybe Captain America, the first Avenger, and then we'll work off some others. So, like, oh, so The Incredible Hulk? No. Iron Man 2? No. Iron Man 3?
Maybe.
Okay, I guess. Okay, so the first I know, just I'm saying the thought experiment for a
Yep.
bit.
Okay.
Like the first Thor, no, not really. Thor: The Dark World, no. Thor Ragnarok, okay, I'll admit that was good.
Yep.
Okay, so Avengers: Age of Ultron, no. Avengers: Infinity War, Avengers: Endgame, okay, I guess. Captain Marvel, no.
Just a thought
Ant-Man,
experiment. It
no.
doesn't reflect
Ant-Man
his
and the
true.
Wasp, not
It doesn't
really.
reflect his true thoughts. As far as
Huh?
I know, you like mostly Marvel movies, right? So do I.
Of course I do. I'm saying if I was a Marvel fan, the same way these people are supposedly Star Wars fans, that's how I would sound like.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, I honestly prefer the sequel and original trilogy over the prequel trilogy for a ton of reasons. I need to.
I honestly find that even with its faults, though, I find myself probably liking the sequel trilogy more, honestly, mainly just because I feel it really captured the spirit of what exactly it was actually,
yes,
like, why we
yes.
fell in love with it.
I also think it's better acted and has better visual effects, and it'll probably age better. Yeah, because
as I said, hon, like, I mean, because it's just like a thing. Like, again, when I think
we
of this,
really
though,
talk
and
a
even
lot about
still,
Star Wars.
when I see people trot out because it had like a very middling kind of critic score, which I feel that people always have to keep in mind with this, which is that the Rotten Tomatoes score does not say what critics felt about the film. All it does is take multiple reviews and it encapsulates it and puts it into a score of how many liked it versus not. It doesn't tell you how much they liked it or how much they didn't. Just, okay, there were critics who liked it, those who didn't like it, and then we put it into an aggregate score to see what that looks like. Trust me, if we were to think that it was by quality, then the most well-praised Batman film would not have actually been The Dark Knight. That would be Under the Red Hood with a 100% Rotten Tomato meter.
Holy shit!
And except you're not going to actually find film critics who are going to say, hey, Batman Under the Red Hood, that was the best Batman film. I mean, I think that, certainly, but it's like you're not going to be seeing them actually feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Or hell, you even see this with other films. I mean, I think the film was called A Lady in the Water, and Thor Ragnarok had extremely similar Rotten Tomato scores. Did critics love Thor Ragnarok as much as A Lady in the Water? Hell no. They thought Lady in the Water was much better.
There's a win out there waiting for us.
Yeah, so basically, like, which percentage
So again,
of
and also because keep in mind, critics are also people too, and they have their own wants and desires from what's going to be there. So no doubt, because a lot of them love The Last Jedi, they were expecting that The Rise of Skywalker was going to basically pull another one. It didn't go in the direction they wanted, so therefore that's why they ultimately didn't like it. Because let's not be, because as much as maybe film critics want to try to sometimes portray themselves as objectives.
They're
just
not.
like any human creature, they're not. There's still people with
Looking at you,
opinions.
Mauler. Looking at you,
There's still
Mauler.
people with that.
Looking at you, Mauler. Looking at you, Mauler. You know that that guy on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that guy with it. Which is why I don't really take it seriously. And no, a B+ on Cinema Score is not a lukewarm score. That would be when you go into the C territory. It's kind of weird to say that, considering that The Last Jedi only had an A score, as if going like basically one letter grade down means like, oh my god, everyone hated it. That comes to be across to me as the same people who seem to think that anything below an 80 on Metacritic must mean that it's awful.
85.
No, it does
85
not.
Metacritic. Oh my god! Remember when City didn't get a bonus of like they've graded 2 from Bethesda because they're
they were like a few points off.
One
of that,
point.
Even
1
though
point.
The staff themselves.
1 point.
The staff themselves didn't even really care actually that they didn't get it. They were just, oh yeah, you would get it if you got it, but they were just like, yeah, whatever. That's just a reward we'll get maybe.
Yes, I swear these people. Yeah, I'm just trying to.
So that's what I mean with it, though. Which is why I say, like, yeah, even though I do take critics in mind, though, you still shouldn't use them as the end-all, be-all to save a movie's quality. Because keep in mind, like I think it was like the Phantom Menace, which had like a 56%. Because also, let's be clear, a 51% wasn't like, oh my god, all these other films were getting high ratings and this one got a low one. Like, dudes, and the Phantom Menace was also in the 50s of the percentages, and Attack of the Clones actually had a lower score than that. Like,
here's something to point out. Wonder Woman 1984. It's so fresh than when it came in time for release on HBO Max.
Watch for them.
The Rotten Tomato score plummeted.
Like, that's what I mean with it, though. Like, yeah, there were early people who liked it, but then there were other critics who saw it and then disliked it. But again, like, keep in mind, even though its dislike was still nowhere near as low as it was going to be. Because again, like, keep in mind that once you go below the 60s, you're considered quote-unquote rotten. I remember the Phantom Menace had a 59%. I'm pretty sure also that Attack of the Clones had 56% as well. So therefore, it is lower than the other two films or percentages, but not really by much.
Yeah. I honestly, I think I said it before, but I think I find the Rise of Skywalker better than the prequel trilogy.
I still like it, but again, I'm not going to go into a discussion on that because
yeah, we had the same dance song
and dance with it.
Yep.
But for me, it's not really about that because again, I'm not even saying that they have to love everything that's there. But ultimately, with a series you supposedly love and you talk more about what you don't like than you like, then for me, that just becomes very tiring.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not that I'm against criticisms. Again, I have my criticisms of Star Wars, because I have those. But I always say, though, that with the sequel trilogy, there's really not much I could criticize it for that I couldn't also criticize the
Too, like I said, it has a fair point in regards to, like, why is, like, the Force lightning considered more evil than the Jedi mind trick. Fair point to think about. Just saying.
I mean, I think it's just because with Jedi, they mainly apply it judiciously, though, whereas the Force lightning is actually torturous when you use it.
Fair point. Anyway, oh shit.
So that's what I mean with things like that, though, which is ultimately why I find myself being so tired of that discourse, because it's always this thing where they take forever to be able to actually decide if they like it or not.
Yeah.
Like, I give Marvel fans the credit, at least Marvel fans actively like what it is that they get most of the time.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, they just go like, yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And to shift to other sad news, BioWare has cancelled development on the overhaul for Anthem.
I was really very sad when they did that, because I was so looking forward
I'm not
to that
surprised.
rebuild.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I was like, oh.
Of course, not so much surprised, but I was still very much someone who felt like, wow, like, they still did that, and I was really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's like a combination of like the player base dwindling, COVID, and BioWare working on the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, the next Mass Effect, and the next Dragon Age game. And Star Wars: Old Republic. They got their hands full, so...
So, yeah, I was going to say, like, I definitely wouldn't be able to I wouldn't be criticizing them for it. I was still disappointed, and I had to be off Twitter for a bit because I didn't want to not see anyone being like, "Oh my god, they support it," because I really loved that game when it was there. Yes, I stopped playing it, but that was because I finished all the content. I was really looking forward to seeing much more of it come out.
Yeah.
I at least really hope that down the line, BioWare will at least make a sequel with a better focus, though, on it.
Oh, that I definitely agree. I definitely agree.
I hope that, at least for that much, that they'll make a sequel for it, and then they could just go and just be able to make it better, basically. Just be able to have one, admittedly, with not so much of a trouble production.
Yeah, I'm also surprised that I'm a little surprised with Fallout 76 receiving support. Not that surprised, but pleasantly surprised. And so and
it's still getting support from what I'm seeing, though.
Yeah,
it doesn't
is.
show any signs of slowing down. I'm thinking it's maybe going to be getting its final update sometime this year, I would imagine. But still nothing to actually say that, at least at this point.
That's fair. I really need to catch up on Fallout 76. Still, it's like in the.
I already did all the content for it, so therefore I'm already satisfied with it. Probably will be my last game for this night.
Yeah. And another thing on my mind. Also surprised to see the Avengers game continuing to receive support, even though that, from what I've heard, it undersold.
Yeah, it seems it did very so-so on sales, but it does look like they're still giving support, and as we're seeing, this isn't like low-tier support, like they're doing actual expansions for this game.
And yeah, and something. Oh, that reminds me. Microsoft has now officially at full-on have bought out Bethesda.
It's now like no longer a thing that they're planning on doing. It's now absolutely what just happened.
Yes.
So I would imagine some people in the Discord that we're in have said most likely it means that that the games that were already planned to be on PlayStation, like the games that were the contracts that were already made, are likely going to be in. But anything outside of that is probably going to be exclusive. So I'm going to imagine.
Yeah,
that,
it'll still play on the computer. But here's another. I'm curious. Would future Bethesda games still be out for on Steam?
Probably on. Probably not Steam, but probably for the Microsoft Store.
Yeah, so I seen some people lamenting about the lack of modding Fallout and future Fallout and Elder Scrolls games. Like, you still do. It'll still be released on the computer.
And besides, though, as far as modding goes for future games, they're probably going to do it at some point, though. I could easily imagine that later games they'll offer that. It just wasn't for online, because mods online have always been messy.
Okay, mods, especially big, large-scale mods. Yeah, we already talked about the Frontier. Let's move on. What I've heard, seems like the developers are cleaning out that mod. I'm not holding my breath, but it's somewhat promising at least.
I mean, I have faith that they'll be able to do something good with it.
Yeah, turn things around.
I just always dislike, though, whenever I see fans of modders always speak as if modders are these people who are way more skilled than devs.
They're not.
But I'm like, have you seen most of the mods that come out on the Nexus? They're awful. Like, look at any mod. You would not mistaken it for being part of the game. You would have thought that it was a mod, and you would have been correct. I think the best example of this are all the tactical mods that they do. Look at the wheel steel guns they include. They look awful, especially when they don't even add new animations. They just keep the same ones, and especially when they try to introduce things like bullpup weapons, which is obviously not what Fallout ever had in mind, so therefore it looks really bad.
Yeah.
Heads up, team. Ring flare's opening nearby.
And also helps that modders also don't have schedules and be like, oh, it's just a matter of a team. Great, you gonna pay them for that work?
Nope. Nope.
Because, oh yeah, you want me to be able to do this while I'm after work? Okay, I'm gonna need compensation for that because I have plenty of things to do with my time.
Yeah, so I actually
like, I love modders, don't get me wrong. I really love what those guys can do, but I really think they're fans though, particularly.
I heard that part of the backlash is because I don't know if you talked about this for the Frontier. Because one of the mod that's made a bit of an off-color truck for Trump supporters. And partially because someone decided to, like, shook the horde's nest at 4chan.
Yeah, makes about sense to me. It just, and also because a lot of stuff in there was because there was a lot of things where the modders were trying to essentially flex their muscles, so to speak, on what they could do, which looking on those kind of becomes obvious when you have things like vehicle segments, which is clearly what they were trying to do in an engine that's very outdated.
That is, which is impressive. Which I actually have, you know, we've actually talked about this. So long story short, the studying some side quests and the vehicles, good stuff. And I'm glad that the mod author responsible for it is bringing it to vanilla New Vegas. Thank you very much.
So I look forward to seeing what exactly it is that they can manage to do with that. But again, I'm sure that later Fallout games are going to, because let's be real here, they are absolutely going to probably remaster Fallout 3 and New Vegas. I mean, it's just a given that they're going to do that.
What makes you think that Bethesda would remaster Fallout 3 in New Vegas?
I mean, considering how many stuff of Skyrim we've gotten, I don't really consider a remake or at least an HD version of 3 or New Vegas with modding support. I don't see that as being out of the picture. And considering that those games are still stupidly popular even to this day, Fallout 3 and New Vegas, pretty sure that it's going to be there. Although it is funny because Fallout 4 actually still has a really strong community, especially in the modding scene.
Yep. And there's some large scale mods coming out like Miami, even like a fan remake of Fallout 3 in New Vegas. Though
I know that my best friend Parker actually told me of a mod that actually even incorporates Fallout 3 and New Vegas into the same game, basically.
Tale of Two Wastelands. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Like, when I get a PC, I actually really want to try that. He mentioned that basically it takes a lot of what Fallout New Vegas did and incorporates those systems into the Fallout 3 experience.
So, the reason why, because there is some legacy content in New Vegas.
Watch out. Tango's getting revived.
Hey, Nord, I'm gonna have to screen short because I need to call someone now.
Yep.
Someone urgently.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm just about. Oh yeah. Just about done. Ooh, new kill leader. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to revive all the people. Sorry to hear that. So pretty urgent, right?
Yeah. So, thanks for the stream. I'll go and talk to you later. Okay.
Alrighty.
Thanks so much for this. Had a great time talking to you.
Yeah, you too. I'll be yeah. A bit sorry to like have the stream disconnect and ooh. I'm gonna see who's up for streaming.
Give my shields a recharge.
Who is nope. Toko Devil. Let's try her. So,
Half the squads remain.
So anyway, have a good day, everybody. Sorry, like you said, had to cut it short. So, have a good day, everybody.